Hi, I'm Jen Johnson with Whispering Pines Farm, and I am an authorized Majacraft dealer. And I'm making this video because I wanted to show you how I use the Majacraft mini comb set. My preferred method for prepping fiber is to use the Majacraft flick carder. And the reason for that is that practically all the fiber that I card for spinning comes from my own flock. And we raise really fine fleeced Shetland sheep with fleeces that have micron counts in the low 20s. So for me, it works best to wash the fleece and then flick it by the lock and spin from the lock. But there are times when the combs come in handy, and I'm going to talk about that. But first I want to show you how I flick the fleeces from the sheep in my flock. So I grab a nice hank of wool here, all kind of lined up, and then just brush out the ends on each side of the lock. I put a piece of little denim or some rugged fabric on my lap to prevent getting myself hurt from the sharp tines. So here I am, I've got my beautiful flicked lock ready to spin. So then what happens after I have flicked the locks, I end up with some waste, and I take that and I usually throw that in the bin. With this particular fleece, I'm running into a lot of waste, more waste than I normally do. So in those situations where I really feel like there's more spinnable fiber, this is all of the flicking waste that I just pulled this from the bin. There's more than this. But when I have the sense that there is actually more spinnable fiber, that's when I'll break out my Majacraft combs. So Majacraft offers the combs just as they are. So if you like to use both, put one comb in each hand and comb that way, you can just buy them as combs. And then they also offer a mini comb set, which has the clamp and the base for you to set one comb on. The benefit of the Majacraft mini combs is that the tines are not as sharp. So you're not as likely to hurt yourself, but you're going to get the benefit of cutting through the wool, having the ability to precisely comb, so there's no trade-off. They offer a 2-pitch and a single pitch. I bought the 2-pitch for my own use. I carry the single pitch in my store. So the 2-pitch is good for the finer fleeces, and that's why I ended up securing this set for myself. So I like to store them in this little holder just because it's going to eliminate any risk of me injuring myself if I accidentally grab into the basket of wool or whatever and these are sitting there without any protection. So I put them in this little holder that comes with your mini comb set. Also in the mini comb set, in addition to the 2 combs, you get is the clamp, and you also get a diz and a diz hook. And the diz has 3 holes, different sizes, so you can use it for different types of fiber. So I'm going to show you now how I use the combs in my situation, my setup, which is very, unique to me. So what you do is you put the base of the comb set on the corner of your table, and you want a table that's got a nice ledge. And when I set it down, there's 4 rubber feet on the base. When I set it down, I want to make sure that they are on the level plane. So this table's got a bit of a bevel. Don't go off the bevel. Make sure that you're on a nice level plane. Put one of your combs down on the base, flush with the edge of the base, and I forgot to tell you this, there's this little hole that's been machined in the handle, and that's what the clamp goes through to hold the combs down on the table. So you set the comb on this little base, then you take the clamp and this little metal rod goes in that hole, and the nice padded bottom part of the clamp, it just got this nice rubber protective layer on it to prevent you from scratching your table. All right, so we're going to do that. We're going to slide the clamp in, and I push it in as far as I can go. I'm going to actually scooch this over just a bit. Just as far as you can, so this clamp is actually right up against the table. Then you're going to tighten your wing nut. Make sure you can see, yep. And I tighten it really hard. I tighten it as pretty much as hard as I can by hand. I don't use tools to tighten it. I'm not going to get pliers or anything, but don't do a loose hand tight. You want it good and tight so that the combs aren't going to shift while you're working on your wool. So that's on there pretty well. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed the comb with my wool that I'm calling it flicking waste. So it's just these clouds of neps and stuff, but there is good fiber in there. There's good spinnable fiber in there, and I want it. I don't like the idea of throwing this all out. So what I do, and you saw the staple length of a flicked lock, it's about 3 inches. So what I try and do is I'm lashing the fiber onto the combs, is I try to imagine that I'm trying to reconstruct the lock. So I'm just going to lash on right at the very edge of the cloud of fiber as best as I can. I'm not going to get too crazy about it. There is going to be waste here, but I'm also going to salvage some really good spinnable fiber here in this process. And this is called lashing onto the wool, which always sounded kind of violent to me, but that's what it's called. And you just want a tiny bit on the, I'm going to call this the back side of the comb. You just want a tiny bit of fiber, just enough to hold it on the comb. It gives you a little bit of resistance as you pull it on. So that's good. I'm not going to do any more. That's about good. So you can see there's dirt on the side. There's a piece of hay right there. Lots of clumpy tip. And I want all that gone. I want a nice clean prep to spin. So the way I do it is I do start kind of going north to south, but I don't do a huge, like a big sweeping motion. I usually just try and go as far to the edge as I can and just pull it, and it comes out nice and gently. And the way I do it is if I'm finding that it's not coming out easily, I'm probably being too aggressive and going in a little bit too much, like right there. Then you just, as you know, if you feel like you're getting you've gotten the most you could going that direction, go side to side. And what we're doing is we're transferring the fiber from this feed comb that we started with onto the comb that's in your hand. And I'm gonna like loosen it up a little bit by just lifting the wool up on the comb. Continue to try and get so there's still some spinnable fiber there, and it's just not moving, it's not coming off. So here's where this is probably sacrilege, but whatever. So I'm going to take that because I want that fiber, and I'm just going to put it on the comb in my hand. Then I'm going to redo it and work on transferring the wool over to the comb on the base. Moving it from side to side, different directions. You can see here I'm kind of going in all sorts of different ways in an effort to get the fiber on the source comb. Now there's a lot more waste here than what we would normally see, and that's just because I'm combing waste. So there's going to be waste. Sliding this back on here. Probably driving people crazy watching me do this. I've watched there's a ton of stuff on YouTube, really good footage of videos of people doing this properly. So if you want to, watch a video of somebody doing it for the purpose of carding wool, the virgin wool right off, after they've washed it, that's not me. All right, then what I do, and is now it's ready to pull off. So there's a couple ways you can do it. Create your triangle or Santa's beard, I heard someone say, and just pull it off. I can feel the tips of the fiber as it's moving, because they're all kind of spaced differently, but you can sort of feel as you lose resistance that it's time then to start and shift. And once you get your center pull really hard, then just shift it over to one side. And then when that starts to be hard, shift it over the other side. Look, there's a big glob. I'm going to take that out. So once again, this is wool that I would have lost to the scrap bin. Actually, what I do with my scrap wool is I collect it, and then it's going to go into quilt batting. Just because I have the luxury of being able to meet the minimums at Zeilingers. All right, so now I've got my little bit of fiber, make a little nest, set that in a basket, and that's the way I do it. And the rest of this will go, like I said, into the quilt batting pile. It's all scraps of hay and stuff. And this is the wool that I managed to salvage by using my Majacraft double pitch mini comb set.